control is a way more useful man than one who cannot do that. And so you're willing to go get a job, but you're terrified of an interview. It's like, there's a dragon for you. Because you want to fight the dragons that guard the gates of the treasure that you wish to attain.
Here we have Milo Yiannopoulos.
Jordan Peterson is so hot. I really find him so intellectually attractive that he's now become physically attractive. Let's see what Milo says about Trump and DeSantis in this on Timcast.
Now, I'll be honest, I haven't ever watched Milo Yiannopoulos. I know of the name. I'm very familiar with the name, but I've never actually sat and watched anything. But apparently this was a great episode of Timcast tonight because a lot of people told me about the Trump-DeSantis discussion that was going on. And so we're going to watch some of this. I've watched a little bit of it. So we're going to watch this and react to it. But it sounds to me like Milo is on to some really good points. And it's a really good discussion because as I have been saying from the beginning, I obviously love Ron DeSantis. I am from the state of Florida. I was at his celebration just last night. I was also at another event with the DeSantis campaign earlier this week. I am a massive fan of Ron DeSantis, and I believe he can be a transcendent politician, but it's not his time. Donald Trump is still in the game, and nobody will come close to Donald Trump if he decides to run, and he will decide to run. He's going to be making that announcement next week. I'm a Trump guy. He's the greatest president of my lifetime. And a lot of the things that Milo has said in this clip that I have seen, I agree with it, everything he's saying up to this point. So let's listen to it, let's react to it, and then obviously I'll leave a link so you guys can watch this whole episode.
Very much.
I'm reacting to a react.
In favor of a national divorce. The Republican Party is an entity that survives despite failing to understand how to talk like human beings, how to talk to human beings, and how to reflect the concerns of the voters who, out of the indefatigability of the human spirit, keep hoping for the best and vote for them anyway. The party is not fit for purpose, and if it doesn't reinvent itself in Trump's image, it doesn't deserve to live.
Trump or Ron DeSantis? That's going to be the big debate here as well.
I don't think anybody is seriously in favor of DeSantis unless they're paid to be.
I strongly disagree with you on that. But that's going to be a topic we're going to be discussing here in a little bit.
If you're on Meghan McCain's side, you're on the wrong side.
I don't think I'm on Meghan McCain's side at all. But more importantly here, there is something to say about this performance in the face of economic inflation, lockdowns, crime waves, which seems like it wasn't really affecting the election results. There's also the fact that a lot of Trump-endorsed candidates didn't win. Trump's attacking some of them right now. And the ones that he did,
Trumpian candidates.
And then the ones who his record is stupid. And look, yes, I know that a lot of the candidates that he endorsed were going to win anyway. Some of those were easy picks.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is his record is stupid. Yes, there was a couple of bad decisions. Oz was a terrible candidate. I don't know what he was thinking with that one. That was a bad candidate.
Yeah, but Trump's not in charge of candidates. Oz ran on his own. Trump had to endorse him because he was the GOP ticket. I never believed in Oz. I think he's a media darling and would have gone in as a rhino. The fact that somebody who doesn't have all their faculties, like somebody else we know in government, won, that Fetterman guy, that mutant, that blob of flesh with no ability to formulate a thought. The fact that our country installed that guy is terrifying.
But the fact that they're trying to create this narrative drives me crazy.
He attacked one.
There are some examples of that. The problem here, I felt a bit icky seeing Trump whine about the consultants. It didn't seem like a kind of alpha dog daddy thing that we're used to from Trump. Seemed a little bit pathetic. And my hope is that he will announce soon and get his mojo back, because at the same time as he's taking these very light touch teasing pot shots at DeSantis, who has zero chance of succeeding. Look, DeSantis is almost as popular as Trump in some bits of Florida, but don't ask them to choose. because he is gone the second they have to choose between him and Trump.
I agree.
Don't get it twisted, okay? He has no chance. It is not happening.
Do you think
agree.
even in
I
Miami
disagree.
and Tampa, Trump wasn't able to flip those districts?
You're out of your mind if you think that somebody with the charisma of a potted cactus can go up against Donald Trump and not end as just another casualty on the list.
Oh, okay. Okay. First of all, clearly no person on the planet has the charisma of Donald Trump. But to say that Ron DeSantis has the charisma of a potted cactus, I think that is...
DeSantis is wooden. I like him. He's the governor of my state. But his delivery is somewhat wooden. And when he was debating Christ, he was not as sharp as I thought he would be. He's probably stronger in reacting and not during a debate. I think that he's strong in reacting to policies and coming out and doing pressers against deleterious policies that the feds are passing. But in his debate, he was a little weak. He's a young guy. He's only 44 years old. So he has to season himself more. And there are a lot of problems with people saying that he's talking to the Jeb Bushes and he's, part of Conservative Inc. Everything is so confusing right now. Every story I try to analyze and say to myself, okay, what's the end game of this? And quite honestly, I'm confounded more than I'm not lately because everything seems to be being tipped on its head within the GOP, within the Democrats. Thankfully, I'm neither. I would like to see Trump run libertarian with Rand Paul personally and destroy the Uniparty. That would be really amazing.
Way misrepresenting Ron DeSantis. But yes, Trump, I've said it for years, even before he became president. Donald Trump, no matter what room that man walks into, he's the most important man in the room. That was before he became president. That's just his aura. That's just who he is. So, but I don't agree with that statement about DeSantis.
You're out of your mind. And looking at the rogues gallery of people who are being paid to support DeSantis, I think unless you can provide a compelling case, which today I have not heard, you are being charmingly naive in falling in line with the worst people.
I can give a very compelling case for it.
In this country, the worst people in this country who want more than anything for the will of the people to be subverted. They want to suffocate Trump and all he stands for, and he is, of course, merely a proxy. He's a shorthand for a variety of things that they hate about Americans. They hate the gaucheness of the South. They hate everything about the South. They hate Appalachia, with its lack of sophistication. They despise and are contemptuous of the people who love Trump, and they are the architects of their misery. I mean, there's a reason that these places that vote for Trump have drug problems. It's because the coastal elites systematically killed these towns by taking all the manufacturing abroad to weaken the economic clout of Republican places.
Now,
okay, these places were deliberately and systematically sabotaged, and the result of that is like human misery on a scale that nobody really truly comprehends. There's now no reason for many of these towns in the South to exist, and they stagger on with no factories, with no jobs, with no hope, and people lose themselves in godlessness and in drugs and in all manner of self-destructive behaviors. That was done to them. That was the thing that was done to them. Okay, and Trump is a neat shorthand for the kinds of people that coastal elites consider to be beneath them. And the DeSantis project is about ensuring that Trump was a temporary, unfortunate blip, never to be repeated, because they think they have the right to determine that. They think they have the right to dictate that. I don't think that's going to pan out for them. I think they're going to continue to be humiliated, just as they have been every time they've tried this since.
That's just super, super interesting, and I agree with what he's saying. Antis element and about him. I mean, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's just
Diagram of everything they agreed on. What are the differences that you see that DeSantis doesn't have? That what is that X factor that Trump does have that you're talking about?
Well, you just said it. Trump is
The X factor.
Trump is a once in a generation charismatic authority
yes.
that cannot be replicated. It cannot be imitated. As somebody who has a little slice of that kind of charisma myself, and has experienced a retinue of desperate cleaners and imitators in my life, I can tell you it never pans out trying to, just snatch the bits that you can stomach from the guy everybody loves and otherwise keep serving your special interests. Trump is a look. Whether you believe in God or not, you could express this in terms of ordainment if you wanted to, or you could just say that some people are born with a magical kind of personality that captivates people in a way that nobody else can imitate.
In terms of what people are getting from
DeSantis, on the other hand, has no identifiable personality at all.
well, sure. But what
I don't agree with that.
symbol,
Not with the DeSantis
policy, feeling do people get from Trump? What victory?
You're
do we
making
get?
the mistake that all politically minded people make, which is assuming that people vote on the basis of policy.
I said feeling.
DeSantis has scored some victories in Florida. He's been an excellent governor in Florida, and that's where he should stay, because he's been a very successful and excellent governor in Florida. But as I said, people like him in some bits of Florida almost as much as they like Trump. But ask them to choose, and he's out.
I'm trying to figure
Now,
out
on the
the gain people get from Trump they don't get from DeSantis, and that can be emotional.
It's precisely that. It's precisely that magical intangible that you try to articulate and stumble, and then when you go to a rally, you're like, "That's what I was talking
It's
about."
kymatics, man. It's vibration. It actually alters DNA.
I don't know about that, but
See, and Ian's starting to say the things that are true because sound alters DNA. Frequencies alter DNA. The Rife machine is a frequency machine designed to kill disease with frequencies, sound.
Sound can change the way people's body
that
structure.
sounds like nonsense. But
It's real. That's amazing. That's why music can heal people and stuff.
no.
So the Beatles' voices.
But there are people who are born with that gift, and they typically find some way in which to express it. Some of them become singers, some of them become actors. And
Saying Trump exudes
rarely
charisma doesn't quantify what's happening for us in a way that So for me,
of course
right?
it does.
Well, no, right.
Mesmerizing.
I get that. But what do so a lot of people are motivated.
He is an intoxicant that blots out the sun. There is no
does an
conventional
intelligent
political candidate who has a chance.
What does an intelligent individual, a working class person, gain from that?
Why do they not understand what he's saying? Politics has always been about more than policy. It's always been more than.
Because they're ex-leftists. They're still indoctrinated somehow in some weird way. And that's what this reactor is not understanding. You must not know the history of Tim Pool.
Than that. George W. Bush, I think positive.
I don't know what kind of logical fallacy that is. What does an intelligent person gain?
Well, because you're saying the average person doesn't care about
I
policy.
can't speak for intelligent people, but
So if no one actually cares about what their politicians are doing for them, then why should I care about Trump over DeSantis?
What happened in 2016 was
Introducing the hide and seek from Belroy.
A traditional wallet on the outside, it hides a few tricks on the inside.
The last time that half this country felt good about themselves and like there might be hope.
Mhm.
You cannot fight that.
Hope for what?
Trump,
What?
their world wouldn't be ripped apart by social engineering and by other things I can't mention right now until the third hour. But there are things going on in this country that threaten the very basis of our civilization, that stem from original sins like women's suffrage, but go all the way through to more modern fads and manias to do with
Original sins like women's suffrage, the 19th Amendment. That's funny. But I'm not going to completely disagree with him because women, many women, suburban women, didn't vote for their best interest, for their well-being. And now many of them are going to have problems deciding between heat and food. I mean, it's pretty imminent about what we're facing because of the people that have been put into the White House, because they're following an international UN agenda. They're not even taking the Constitution into consideration.
things we can't talk about. But there is the people are keenly aware that the physical reality of the world they live in, the facts they took for granted, are being ripped apart by the political descendants of.
Now I understand. I understand what you're
Okay,
saying.
so Trump in 2016. I was very blessed to have the opportunity to be such a big part of that, because that was the last time that an entire half of this country felt like things might end up okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned out to be disappointing in office, but how could he ever have been how could he ever have ended up otherwise?
Well, I will say this to his point, and I don't agree that he was disappointing in office. It just needs to be noted.
Justice and hope was
So-
was within reach.
I'll try and quantify it the way what I'm basically hearing is that there are dark forces that are destroying the fabric of this country. Donald Trump stood in front of that and put a fist up to
and
stop
said
it.
it might not be too late.
He didn't quite put a wall up against it because he didn't fire the people who were behind AIDS Inc. when that takeover was happening, but he is somewhat controlled just like every sitting president. So there were some things that Trump did that were pretty lame. And, he was afraid of what people would say if we went the way Sweden went. At this point, I think there's no fear anymore. There's he's not going to have any controllers or handlers. And that's why they're trying so hard to dismantle, discredit, and ruin his reputation so horribly. Because if Hillary Clinton got in office, do you know how much worse things would be right now? Do you know how far along we would be accelerated into the social credit score, digital ID, digital money? We would already be knee deep in that shit. It would be horrendous. That's why they hate him so much, because he took those 4 years to turn that ship around. And you notice the minute that this new installed administration got into office, they undid all those policies that made America prosperous.
So when Christianity comes into Europe in the Middle Ages, right? Its real innovation is a sort of joy and happiness that's not fueled by self-indulgence and self-destruction. So pagan
I don't want to
societies-
listen to all, because obviously I want you guys to go over to Timcast and watch this whole thing, but it's just a really good discussion. I don't right now.
attached to that kind of ecstasy, right? You get yourself caught up in some kind of hypnotic pagan, trance thing. The nearest cognate we have these days is drug-fueled EDM raves, and it always comes with a cost attached. There's a price to it. When Christianity comes in the Middle Ages, you suddenly see like intensely religious people singing and dancing. They found this way to be happy that doesn't involve killing yourself in some sort of slow motion suicide. People who are full of the joy of the incarnation, and you have gargoyles pulling faces on cathedrals. You have religious people with smiles on their faces. One of the emotional the capstones of Western civilization is that joy. Another characteristic of our artistic tradition is yearning or longing, right? Most great works of art are about reaching for something, about that sort of romantic frustration or whatever. But one of the sort of the emotional building blocks of our civilization is joy in Christ, happiness for its own sake. I don't think anybody could plausibly claim that society is getting happier and more joyful. What we've seen with runaway school marmishness and restrictions and regulations, the kind of intolerable and oppressive conditions under which some people, valiantly continue to labor, is a gradual suffocating of a joy. There's nothing recognizable as comedy on television anymore.
Just really quick,
I'll be quick. Sorry. That gradual erosion of happiness. People feel that. They're aware of it. They won't articulate it in the way that I did, but they're aware of it, and they know that the last time that something good happened was this crazy guy that they remembered from a TV show, who suddenly inspired them with confidence that maybe it wasn't too late to beat back the hordes of hell.
Yeah, it could be also the loss of religion and the overindulgent society that is being prioritized by big tech social media. But when I want to specifically talk about Trump, because I did agree with a lot of things you said, specifically that he does have a cult of personality. He did represent an idea that was going to help the American middle class.
That's a demeaning minimization.
They always do that.
Cult of personality is never a compliment. Cult of personality means that somebody has managed to baffle and bamboozle their followers into doing destructive things. Cult of personality is
like maybe taking a product that they shouldn't be taking that hasn't been proven, that hasn't been rushed to prove this operation warp speed. But I just want to specifically get to the point of what happened today, because Trump's messaging doesn't look strong today. He came out and he talked about how he got more votes in Florida during his election. He talked about how one of his endorsements was wrong. And he openly threatened Ron DeSantis on Fox News, saying specifically that DeSantis is going to hurt himself badly if he runs, and that he has some kind of dirt on him that his wife doesn't even know, that he's going to release to the general public. This doesn't seem like a unifier or someone who's going to bring the party together.
He said, did I hear that? To Trump? I heard the part where he said he's going to hurt himself.
No.
He spent the
What?
Up for himself.
Let me add one point.
Picasso had a blue period. I mean, Trump is permitted a wobble given what he's been subjected to.
He spent the past year just nonstop talking about the past. And when people want to hear
I agree, and I think it's a mistake. Yeah. And I think that he currently sounds pathetic, and I think that he needs to fix it real quick. But let me tell you, the moment that guy gets his mojo back, there isn't anybody else on the field. And you best believe that will happen.
That's a video we should make. Seamus. Trump got his mojo back.
You best believe that will happen shortly after he announces, when he has kind of, I think, emotionally reinvested in the fight. But this is a guy who...
Art of war. Make your enemies think you're weak when you're strong, right? Is that what it is?
I don't know if Trump thinks in those terms. I don't know if he's...
I'm only half kidding.
I don't know if he's read a book, but I don't know if he's read his own. But he doesn't need to, because he has that gift that a couple of people per generation have, which is when they're in a good spot and they're firing all cylinders, they just have an atavistic, reflexive, natural understanding of their people, and he's an interesting anomaly, because typically you see this in Europe, where there are more explicitly established class systems, right?
Mhm.
So class operates in America, but everybody pretends it doesn't exist, which is why you don't really understand half of what's happening. But there's a weird affinity between the aristocracy and the working classes in European countries.
I'm gonna stop it here just because it's been a really good discussion. But look, I've always.
So that was fun. I enjoyed. I like listening to Milo. I don't like listening to his like recent obsession with Catholicism. It's a little bit boring and a little bit myopic, if you ask me. But there's no denying that he can capture like esoteric ideas and bring them down to earth and explain them in a very comprehensible manner. Comprehensible. I think they're one and the same. So I've missed regular Milo, intellectual Milo, Milo, non-religious Milo, just strictly philosophical Milo. I call him Milo. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this.